when Natasha Henstridge's character thinks that he's still his brother, and they're
Hmm.
like about to hook up, and he very much pulls off this sort of like this beautiful woman here, but I can't do this, I can't do this with her.
Can do it.
Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this series, counting down Van Damme's most emotional scenes. So with me, my guest is Justin Bright. Check him out, linked below. He's part of the indie pop duo Fly By Midnight that really blown up on the charts. So check out his YouTube channel, his Instagram. But anyway, in this video, we'll be discussing The Order, Double Impact, and Maximum Risk. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to support the channel and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel.
All right, my number 4. Yeah, I mean, this is another weird one, but I think maybe not specifically a scene, but I thought in a another mediocre movie, The Order with Van Damme.
Oh,
I
so
thought,
at least it was a Sheldon Lettich one.
yeah, I thought it was cool. Another sort of dynamic they put him in was the father-son thing with
Yeah,
his dad
sure.
in that movie, and I thought that just introducing that sort of thing, like. That movie weirdly felt like an Indiana Jones. Like there was something in Jerusalem that
Yeah.
they definitely went for something interesting, and I just thought like every scene with him and his dad in that, I was like, wow, like weirdly this is really sewing like an emotion of
Mhm.
sorts, So that was that movie I think is a bit forgettable, but I thought I just like when they kind of challenge Van Damme and put him in something that's not with this sort of Bond girl persona. And I thought that movie did a good job of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I love their relationship. You could tell they had kind of like one of those father-son relationships where they're like friends, right? And then he's just kind of like that happy-go-lucky guy. So I
Yeah.
always like Van Damme when he's the happier, charismatic, and not so much like the dark and depressed, which he's done a lot over the last 20 years, that really dark and depressed type character.
When all you have left are the failures of the past.
It's not as, I mean, the world's enough dark and depressed. We need happy Van Damme, right?
What's it supposed to do? Make my dick bigger?
No, I agree. And I think that movie did have this like there was an undertone of it being like, of course, people were dying and getting killed and stuff, but it was like weirdly there was like this levity to it all.
Yeah, exactly. Even
That
just
kind
the
of
way the cinematography was like brighter and just everything.
Yeah, and in the realm of Indiana Jones, right? Like
Mhm.
like Indiana, like Harrison Ford is like risking his life, but it always felt really like fun.
Yeah, it's a fun ride. Like people are dying, but hey, man, this is a fun ride.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciated it for that. And you're right, it came down to the lighting too. It
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much, look at Cyborg compared to that. Cyborg was so bleak.
Why? I like the death. I like the misery. I like this world!
And yeah, but that I love that father-son dynamic. I thought that was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, good choice.
You want some advice? Take your fancy clothes and your black silk underwear and go back to Disneyland.
Double Impact. Double Impact. Another Sheldon Lettich movie, but so freaking amazing. And the scene specifically was the Alex character, right? When he finds out that the Chad character went there to rescue Danielle, and just the rage and the jealousy of him like thinking like what they're actually doing, and the way they kind of cut back and forth and he's getting more drunk, so he's kind of, when people get drunk they start getting a little more like the emotions amplify, right? And they're in less control of themselves. I mean, he even like punches that phone, and just the buildup of everything, man. Like, was he like blow all that stuff out of his nose, and he's like, just, man, like that's a good performance. And I think any guy could kind of relate to that, especially in their 20s, where you really like a girl, man, and I'm not saying that she's cheating on you, but just the thought of that maybe happen, right?
And there's a sweet picture.
Alex, I tried to call you. Somebody searched me at the office.
Even if it's a girl you're not dating, you don't like, you like the possibility of maybe you being with her someday, and just the thought that she's with another guy. Just, again, this is more when you're in your 20s and you're you're less mature. I mean, I know you're still in your 20s technically, but you're in your late 20s, so you're almost 30. But just that raw, rage and jealousy is something that we can all relate to, man. Totally.
Oh, and he did a great job in that movie. I mean, I think if I could have seen a sequel per se, I would have loved to see that sort of thing. Like even the way they slicked his hair back, compared, there was just like that was a really fun. That was another fun movie, man. That was great.
People were convinced that that he had a brother in real life.
Yeah.
Like Sheldon Lettich told that story. He said he was literally in the gym, and there was a guy saying the guy didn't know Sheldon Lettich directed that movie, but he said, "Hey, there's two Van Dammes." He's like, "Really? Yeah, this new movie, Double Impact." And Sheldon's like, "No, it's the same guy." And then guy's like, "No, trust me, he's got a brother." And Sheldon's like,
So this guy totally bought into it. He's not the only one, but this is somebody that I actually ran into, had a conversation with. I didn't tell him who I was, and he was just saying, "No, my bullshit. Van Damme, that's not the same guy. Van Damme has got a brother, and you can see it clearly in that movie. It's two different people." Like, okay, I guess you know more about it than I do.
apparently.
There's two of them.
So
That's
that was
crazy. That's the biggest compliment since you directed that. So obviously you're directing his performance as two different characters. I can't think of like a better compliment than that.
that's the best. I've described that as the best backhanded compliment I have ever gotten.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, that movie's just in general, I think that was one of Van Damme's earlier acting. Like I was like, oh, I think he's got like I appreciated them giving him that opportunity to flex a bit on that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
This is just another random emotion one, but I loved one of my favorite scenes in Maximum Risk is I don't know if you remember, this is kind of like a very niche sort of thing, but he's a cop and he's in the taxi cab, and the cab driver like weirdly gets involved in this to help him. And
Sure.
And it's like this like really deep moment where the cab driver he says he's like writing a book, so he's clearly like driving to pursue some sort of creative endeavor. He never gets inspired, and he kind of says something to Van Damme along the lines of like I forget it. He like Van Damme's like, all right, drop me off, and then like let's go on our separate ways. And he's like, nah, man, this is like my moment of inspiration. Like I need to be involved in whatever the heck is going on. And he ends up dying. He gets shot.
Yeah, I remember.
Unexpected development. The whole thing's so scary.
And I was like, shit, that kind of hit home.
You were supposed to go home and write. Who needs home? I'm always working anyway.
Like, of course, in a typical action movie, like 10 minutes after they completely move on from that, but it was like this dude's kind of caught in the crossfire, and he never got to put out that book. This poor dude.
It's actually kind of sad. Yeah, it's almost what we talked about, like earlier. I mean, at least that guy was trying, but things happen, and he never got. That could have been an amazing book. We all missed out though. We never got to read that book.
100%. I thought that movie had like weirdly really good character dynamics, from that to even Jean-Claude and when Natasha Henstridge's character thinks that he's still his brother, and they're like about to hook up, and he very much pulls off this sort of like this beautiful woman here, but I can't do this. I can't do this with her.
Can do it.
And yeah, I thought that whole movie made some really interesting choices that once again weren't very formulaic, I think, for him.
Yeah, and he would go on to work with that director Ringo Lam a few other times, and he always raved about Ringo Lam as Ringo Lam being one of those directors that could really kind of, stretch him and test him and get these performances out of him. Because they would do Replicant, and then they would do that prison movie in Hell. But it all started in, I think, 1997 with Maximum Risk. So yeah, that was a good one.
Following in the footsteps of action director John Woo, Lam made the Tinseltown trip to make the all-kicking, all-punching Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle Maximum Risk.
Yeah, wow. Even saying In Hell and Replicant, although Replicant was an interesting movie too, but like those were some really interesting Van Damme movies.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like they all had this very cohesive, like darker, stylistic sort of take. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you really want to know why we never got a Double Impact sequel, check this video out. And if you want more of an in-depth behind Maximum Risk, check this one out.